Welcome back to English Stories for the Soul. A peaceful corner of the world where you can slow down, breathe deeply, and let stories guide both your English and your heart. Today, I invite you to walk with me on a gentle, quiet journey into one of the most meaningful lives ever recorded, the life story of Jesus Christ. This is not a story told with urgency. Not a story about rules, judgments, or arguments. It is a human story. A soft story. A story about kindness, courage, forgiveness, humility, and a love so deep it continues to echo through centuries. As you listen, let yourself relax. If you can, close your eyes. Let the world outside grow quieter, and let your mind become still. Because the life of Jesus is best understood not through loud explanations, but through quiet reflection. For thousands of years, people have carried his words in times of fear, in moments of confusion, and in seasons of loss. Not because he promised an easy life, but because his message was gentle, healing, and deeply human. In this video, I will guide you slowly, softly, through the story of his birth, his hidden years of silence, his teachings, his compassion, his suffering, and his lasting legacy. Take a deep breath with me. In and out. Let your heart open. Let your mind rest. No matter your background, your beliefs, or your journey, you are welcome here. This is a story for anyone who seeks peace, understanding, or simply a warm voice to accompany them. Now when you are ready, let us begin the gentle telling of the life story of Jesus Christ. Part 1, The Birth of Hope. In a quiet corner of ancient Nazareth, in a small house made of simple stone, lived a young woman named Mary. She was gentle in spirit, humble in heart, and lived a life far from power, wealth, or glory. One peaceful evening, as the sun settled behind the hills and the world grew still, Mary received a message that would change the course of history. An angel appeared before her, not in thunder, not in fire, but in soft light. And the angel spoke gently, that she would give birth to a child who would bring hope to a weary world. Mary was afraid. Anyone would be. Yet her heart was steady. She listened. And with quiet courage, she said yes. Not because she fully understood, but because she trusted the light she felt within. Joseph, the man she was to marry, was a carpenter, calm, patient, thoughtful. When he learned of the child Mary carried, he faced confusion, fear, and doubt. But Joseph chose love over pride. He chose faith over uncertainty. He chose to stay beside her. Soon after, a decree was issued: every family had to travel to their ancestral town for a census. And so Mary and Joseph prepared for a long journey toward Bethlehem, a journey of dust, cold winds, and uneven roads. Mary was tired. Joseph was worried. And Bethlehem was overflowing with travelers seeking shelter. Door after door, they heard the same words: there is no room. Finally, an innkeeper offered a small, humble stable, a place meant not for people, but for animals seeking rest. And there, in the quiet of night, surrounded by hay, warmth, and breath of gentle creatures, Mary gave birth to a son. They named him Jesus. Outside the town, shepherds kept watch over their flocks. The night was calm, the sky deep and silent, until suddenly, a radiant light filled the field. A voice announced a message of peace, that a child had been born who would bring joy to all people. The shepherds hurried to the stable, their hearts pounding with wonder. And when they arrived, they found the baby lying in a manger, wrapped in simple cloth. No crown. No jewel. no palace. Only tenderness, humility, and a quiet sense that the world had shifted. From the very beginning, the life of Jesus was marked not by luxury, but by simplicity. Not by power, but by gentleness. A new light had entered the world, not loud, not forceful, but soft like a candle in the darkness, inviting all who were weary to come closer. Part 2, The Quiet Years. Jesus grew up in Nazareth, a small, humble village resting between gentle hills and fields of green that swayed softly in the wind. Life there was simple. People worked with their hands, farming the land, tending animals, repairing tools, and shaping wood into useful objects. Jesus spent his early years learning the trade of Joseph, the carpenter who raised him with patience and devotion. Day after day, Jesus watched Joseph measure each plank, cut each piece with care, and build not only furniture but a quiet life rooted in honesty. There was nothing loud about these years. Nothing dramatic. No crowds followed him. No stories of miracles were told. No speeches echoed through the villages. Instead, Jesus lived like any ordinary child, yet there was something different about him, a softness in his voice, a deep calm in his eyes, and a kindness that seemed to reach beyond his age. He listened more than he spoke. He noticed the lonely, the tired, the forgotten. He offered comfort without needing attention, help without expecting praise. These years in Nazareth were years of silence, the kind of silence that shapes a soul. While the world hurried, Jesus learned patience. While others chased after importance, he embraced humility. While many sought recognition, he practiced compassion in hidden ways. It is easy to overlook these quiet years, but they hold a profound truth, that greatness often grows in places no one sees. That wisdom is formed not in noise, but in stillness. And that the people who change the world are often shaped long before anyone notices them. As Jesus worked beside Joseph, smoothing wood, repairing broken tools, and walking the dusty paths of Nazareth, his heart was preparing, silently, for a mission the world could not yet imagine. Nothing rushed. Nothing forced. Just a gentle unfolding, like dawn rising slowly over the hills. These were his hidden years, years of learning, listening, and becoming. Part 3, The Beginning of His Mission. When Jesus reached the age of 30, something began to stir in his heart, a quiet calling, a sense of purpose that had grown through the years of stillness in Nazareth. He traveled to the Jordan River, where a man named John, known as John the Baptist, preached in the wilderness. John's voice was strong, yet calm, calling people to return to goodness, to repent, and to prepare their hearts for a new way of life. People came from many villages to hear him. And there, among the crowd, Jesus approached John. He asked to be baptized. As he stepped into the river, the cool water flowing around him, something changed. It was not visible to the eye. It was a feeling deep within, a quiet certainty that his path had begun. After the baptism, Jesus began to walk from town to town. He did not carry wealth. He did not seek fame. He did not demand attention. But he spoke. And his words were like a gentle stream flowing into thirsty hearts. He taught that love was the greatest commandment, to love God, to love your neighbor, and even to love those who hurt you. People were drawn to him. Some came because they heard of miracles, some because they longed for hope, and some simply because they had never felt truly seen. Fishermen, farmers, mothers, widows, children, all felt the warmth of his gaze, the steadiness of his words, and the peace of his presence. Jesus walked slowly, listening deeply, not judging, not condemning, but offering understanding, and the promise of a life guided by love and compassion. Even in the simplicity of his steps along dusty roads, people felt the extraordinary. No grand palace, no army, no riches, only a man walking gently, speaking softly, and touching lives with care. These were the beginnings of his mission. A quiet revolution, not one of weapons, not of power, but of the heart. And as he continued, more people began to follow him, not just with their feet, but with their hopes, their questions, and their longing for a world made gentler, brighter, and full of love. Part 4: Teachings that Changed the World. Jesus often spoke in quiet, gentle words, yet each one carried a depth that could reach the hearts of all who listened. He taught not through grand speeches, but through stories, simple, short, and full of meaning. These stories, called parables, held lessons that even the youngest could understand, and yet their wisdom stretched far beyond the words themselves. He told the story of the Good Samaritan. A man walked down a lonely road, and was attacked, beaten, and left for dead. 2 others passed by, one respected, one powerful, but neither stopped. Then a stranger, a Samaritan, came. He tended the wounded man, carried him to safety, and cared for him until he was well. Jesus explained, love should cross every boundary. Kindness knows no limits. He spoke of a shepherd with 100 sheep. One strayed. Instead of being angry, the shepherd left the 99 to search for the lost one, and rejoiced when it was found. He said, every life matters. No one is forgotten. No one is beyond hope. He told the story of a father with 2 sons. The younger son left home, wasting his inheritance, and wandered through life lost and lonely. When he returned, ashamed and fearful, his father ran to meet him with open arms, welcoming him back without judgment. Jesus said, forgiveness is stronger than anger. Love triumphs over pride. He spoke of seeds planted in the ground. Some fell on hard paths, some among thorns, some on rich soil. Those that grew in the right soil flourished, yielding life and fruit beyond imagination. This was a lesson on patience, on nurturing, on the care we give to the hearts of others. People began to notice, these teachings were different. They were not laws written on stone. They were invitations, gentle guidance on how to live fully, with compassion, humility, and courage. Children came to him. Mothers brought the weary and sorrowful. Fishermen left their nets to listen. Even those who were lost or broken found comfort in his voice, in his attention, in the way he saw the world through love rather than fear. He did not promise wealth. He did not promise comfort. He did not demand sacrifice of property or rank. He asked for hearts. He asked for attention to the invisible needs of others. He asked for lives lived softly but deeply, with integrity, patience, and care. And as he spoke, crowds began to gather wherever he went. Some followed out of curiosity, some out of hope, some simply to feel the warmth of his presence. His words were like a quiet revolution. They were not loud, not forceful, not aggressive. They were calm, measured, and simple, yet they reshaped minds, opened hearts, and changed lives in ways that would endure for centuries. Through parables and stories, through careful listening and gentle guidance, Jesus taught humanity a profound truth: that the way we live with one another, the love we share, and the compassion we offer are the true measure of a meaningful life. Even today, thousands of years later, these simple lessons continue to inspire, to guide, and to remind us of what it means to live gently, to forgive freely, and to love unconditionally. Part 5: Miracles of love. Wherever Jesus went, people came to him with their burdens, their sorrows, and their needs. The sick, the blind, the lame, the weary, and the lonely, all sought him not for fame or wealth, but for the gentle touch of understanding, and the quiet warmth of hope. Jesus healed them, not to show power, but to show love. His hands touched eyes that had never seen the sun, and sight was restored. He lifted those who could not walk, and they walked freely once more. He calmed hearts filled with grief, and sorrow turned into comfort. He listened to the broken, and in his listening, they were made whole. One day, thousands of people gathered in a wide, open place. They were hungry, not just for food, but for hope. Jesus looked at the crowd, saw their need, and with only 5 small loaves of bread and 2 fish, he fed them all. Not because of magic, but because of love, because of care, because compassion multiplied what little was given. And every person left feeling full, not only of food, but of the quiet assurance that they were seen and valued. Miracles were not his goal. They were a reflection of his heart. Each act, no matter how small, taught a lesson, that life is meant to be shared, that kindness is more powerful than fear, and that love, when extended freely, can heal wounds invisible to the eye. He did not seek recognition. He did not demand reward. Those who witnessed his miracles were not forced to believe. They were invited to understand. He offered hope, and some accepted it, some hesitated, and some walked away. But the seed of compassion was planted in every heart. Through these acts of quiet love, Jesus showed that the world could be different. Not through force, not through laws, but through small, deliberate acts of kindness, through listening, forgiving, and helping without expecting return. Every life he touched, every heart he lifted, was a ripple in a pond of hope, spreading outward quietly, softly, yet with an impact that would last for generations. Even today, centuries later, these stories remind us that love is the true miracle, and that compassion is the quiet power that can change the world. Part 6: The Road of Suffering. Not everyone welcomed the gentle message of Jesus. Some were afraid. Some were jealous. Some feared the change his words could bring. One quiet evening, after sharing a last meal with his closest friends, Jesus knew what awaited him. He had spoken of it before, but now the moment was near, the moment of betrayal, suffering, and ultimate sacrifice. A friend, someone he had trusted deeply, led soldiers to him in the quiet of the night. They arrested him. They took him to be questioned by leaders who saw him as a threat, who judged him not by truth, but by fear. The trial was long. The accusations were loud. The night stretched endlessly. And yet, Jesus remained calm. Not with arrogance, not with resistance, but with quiet acceptance. He carried his cross through the streets of Jerusalem. The road was uneven. The stones dug into his feet. The weight pressed on his shoulders. Crowds gathered, some weeping, some mocking, some indifferent. And yet, he moved slowly, steadily, never hurrying, never retaliating, allowing the world to witness not just suffering, but forgiveness. On a hill called Golgotha, under a sky darkened as if the earth itself mourned, he was lifted upon the cross. Pain was unbearable. Exhaustion weighed every limb. And still, his voice carried compassion. Even in his suffering, Jesus spoke words that would echo through eternity: "Father, forgive them. They do not know what they are doing." This moment, the ultimate act of love, shows a truth rarely understood: true courage is not found in power or vengeance, but in forgiveness in the face of injustice. True strength is not in avoiding pain, but in enduring it with a heart unbroken. As he hung on the cross, the world seemed silent. The sky grew dark, the earth trembled, and hearts were tested. Those who loved him wept quietly, not understanding fully, but feeling the depth of the moment. His followers, confused and broken, wondered if hope had died with him. Yet even here, in his suffering, Jesus showed the path of compassion, the way of humility, the ultimate lesson that love can exist even in the shadow of death. This road of suffering reminds us that life will often bring pain. It reminds us that injustice may prevail temporarily. It reminds us that even the kindest hearts may endure betrayal and sorrow. And yet, his life teaches us a quiet truth: even in the darkest moments, even when despair seems near, forgiveness, compassion, and love remain possible. The cross was heavy. The path was long. The sorrow was deep. But the message of Jesus, soft and enduring, was clearer than ever, that love is the strongest force in the universe, and no pain can extinguish it. Part 7, The Miracle That Sparked a Movement. But the story does not end on the hill of Golgotha. 3 days after his death, those who loved him approached his tomb, heavy with grief, and found it empty. The stone had been rolled away. The world seemed different, quieter, yet full of awe. They believed he had risen, that life had conquered death, that hope had returned, that love, the same gentle, enduring love he had shown in every word, every act, every touch, was stronger than any fear, any sorrow, any shadow. This moment sparked a movement not built on power, not on armies, not on wealth, but on love, on compassion, on the quiet, enduring teaching that every life matters, every heart is precious, and every act of kindness ripples outward. His followers carried the message from village to village, from country to country, and eventually across the world. They told stories of his gentle hands, his quiet wisdom, his forgiveness that seemed impossible, and his miracles that softened hearts. What began as a small group of people inspired by one man's quiet love became a legacy that spanned centuries. A movement that changed not only faith, but human understanding of compassion, humility, and hope. Even today, people read his words, reflect on his life, and find a path to gentleness and love in a world that can sometimes feel harsh and overwhelming. The miracle was not only the resurrection itself, but the enduring message it carried, that love, offered freely, can change the world. That a single life, lived with courage, kindness, and compassion, can leave an imprint that lasts forever. And so, the story continues, through those who listen, through those who act, and through the quiet light of love that never fades. Part 8, The Legacy of Love. Even today, more than 2,000 years later, the life of Jesus Christ continues to inspire. Not through force, not through authority, but through the quiet strength of his example, through the gentle power of his love, and through the words he spoke with care and purpose. His teachings remind us that true greatness is not measured by wealth, by titles, or by recognition. True greatness is measured by the kindness we extend, the forgiveness we offer, and the love we share without expecting anything in return. Every story, every parable, every gentle act in his life carries lessons that remain as relevant today as they were 2 millennia ago. He taught that every person matters, that every act of compassion has value, that even the smallest gesture of love can ripple through the world in ways unseen. And his life reminds us that suffering and pain are part of the human journey. Yet even in the deepest sorrow, even in moments of betrayal and grief, love has the power to endure, to forgive, and to transform hearts. We see in him a model of patience, humility, and quiet courage. He walked slowly, listened carefully, and moved through the world with intention. And by doing so, he showed that life does not need to be loud to be meaningful. That strength does not need to be harsh. That love does not need to shout to be heard. As we reflect on his story, we may ask ourselves, how can we bring a little of that light into our own lives? How can we act with patience when the world rushes by? How can we forgive, even when it feels impossible? How can we care for others, not for recognition, but simply because it is the right thing to do? This is the invitation of Jesus' life, to live gently, to love deeply, to forgive freely, and to bring hope to those around us. Each of us has the power to carry that quiet light, to make the world a little kinder, a little more compassionate, and a little more peaceful. Thank you for listening to this long, gentle journey. If this story touched your heart, if it helped you reflect, or if it offered a calm moment in your day, consider exploring more stories on this channel. Through these videos, we learn English, but more than that, we learn the quiet wisdom of life, the patience of listening, and the beauty of human compassion. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps more people experience the calm and depth of these lessons. Take a moment now, breathe slowly, and carry with you a bit of the light that Jesus offered the world. May your mind remain open, your heart gentle, and your life filled with love, compassion, and hope. Until we meet again in the next story, remember, the simplest acts of love are the most powerful miracles. And every gentle step we take toward kindness adds to the quiet, enduring light of this world.